So hey everyone, welcome to Small Farm Living. My name is Julie and this video is one of the Just Our Imagination challenges. And today we are using eyeliner. I had no idea what I was going to do with that. A pinwheel, which took me a while to find, but I finally did find one at the Dollar General, and eyeglasses. I chose this for this month. Not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. But the Just Our Imagination Challenge is always hosted by Kathy Jo DIYs, Rustic and Lace DIY, and as you can see, I was fortunate enough to be the guest host this month. Now, the links to the host channels as well as the playlist will be down in the description, so be sure to check that out after this video. Let's get into craft number 1. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is deconstruct these glasses. I kind of had an idea as I was taking them apart what I wanted to do with them. Wasn't sure if it was going to work because the metal on these glasses is a little on the thick side. But what I'm going to do is take the pieces that wrap around your ears and I'm going to attach them to this basket. Now, this basket I just picked up at the thrift store the other day, and I chose it because of the way the handle is and the way I wanted these to sit on there. Now, as I was looking at these, I tried to take the rubber pieces off and they just weren't coming off. So I discovered that if I just straightened them out, which I needed to do anyway, that little rubber grip piece just slips right off. So now what I'm going to do is bend a little hook over one end. And again, this metal is really thick, so it wasn't super easy to do. And then I am looping it around the frame of one of the eyeglasses, and I did pop the glass out that you can see down there on the table. And I'm just pinching that so that it stays. And then I'm just going to use a generous amount of hot glue on each side, again, just to make sure that it stays put. It's not going to get bumped around a lot, so the hot glue will be just fine. So as you can see, this is what I made. And I'm going to attempt to bend these thick wires around the top of this basket handle. It was kind of hurting my fingers because it is so thick, but I was able to get it just so far, and then I took my needle nose pliers and really reefed on it to get it to bend underneath. And then here we have, it's basically like a little hanging swing. And it looks like a hot mess right now with all of this hot glue on here, and it is a hot mess, but you're really not going to see this once it's done. What I'm doing is putting hot glue back all around the frame so that I can put the glass back in, because since I added those wire pieces on the side, the glass no longer tucks down inside there real tight. So this is what it ended up looking like, and I took some of my Spanish moss and I'm just going to shape it into a little bit of a nest format. Now, I really love using nests that I find out in my little wooded section, but unfortunately all the ones that have blown down this year are a little on the larger side, and I just needed a little tiny one. So Spanish moss it is, and I just had to add a little bit more glue so it would sit down onto the little swing. And now I'm going to hot glue my chubby little bird on there. I absolutely love birds. And I am putting quite a generous amount of hot glue on there because what I want to do is have that glue seep down through the Spanish moss and onto the bottom part of the glasses so it's secured on there nice and snug. So once I got that on there, this is what it looked like. It's just adorable as it is, but I found these really, really pretty fake hydrangeas at the thrift store the other day as well. And so I thought I would just tuck a few of those in here in the front as well as a few in the back. And it's already just looking cute to me. I could have left it like this, but years ago, back when I worked at a flower shop, one of the things that I kind of developed for sale was we would put like houseplants in large baskets with handles, and I would just take and glue a piece of ribbon onto the inside back of the handle, and then I would wrap it up and around until I got to the point where the wire bends over the top of the basket. And then that is where my next glue point will be. And you will see the reason why I don't glue it all the way up is because you really need to be able to adjust it so that the spacing looks fairly decent for when you need to glue this portion of it. So I'm just going to glue over that piece of wire and the other one as well. Now, when I did these at the flower shop, the wire was a little thinner because it wasn't glasses and you couldn't see it, but it all works out. Now this is the extra piece of ribbon off of the one that I wrapped around the handle, and I'm just going to cut that in half because all the other ribbon that I'm using for this like shaggy messy bow is on the smaller side. So I am just kind of alternating colors, and that purple one there that was at the base, I'm going to use that to tie a couple of knots to form my bow. And then it was dinner time, and so the project got put off until this morning. You can see the beautiful sunshine coming in through my sliding glass window. And I am just going to cut off the wire from this pretty ribbon rose that I have in my stash as flush as I possibly can. And then I'm going to put some hot glue on that, and I'm going to glue it onto the center of my little shaggy bow. And I have these in all different colors. I think I got them from Wish years ago. I haven't been on that website in a long time. Let me know, do you guys still order from Wish? Or is like Temu the big thing now? I don't know. But you see these little pieces, I wove these into the basket. I didn't glue them on. They're actually part of the pinwheel, and the pinwheel I did use in both projects that I'm doing today. So like I say, you'll kind of see me using some of the pieces already cut apart, and then in the next one I will show you how I cut them apart. But I'm just going to attach my little bow onto the front of my basket. Get that all secured on there. It looks cute. Oops, my flowers are falling out. I'll tuck those back in. Now this is the stem of the pinwheel and the little part that held the pinwheel on, and I thought it looked like one of those flag holders for like the small flags you can put in your flower beds or on your porches. And so I decided I was going to make a little flag. Now this piece of paper came out of a book that I got from the thrift store. I always love scouring and looking through the pages and seeing if there's any pretty designs or border or anything like that that I could use in a project. And I thought this one was really pretty for spring. So I'm just going to hot glue that, wrap it around and secure it down so it makes a flag. And then I found an old Scrabble game at the thrift store. And so I'm just going to take some of those Scrabble pieces, and I am going to arrange the word spring down the side to cover up the words on that piece of paper so that I just have that pretty border with the flowers on the other side. And I hot glued these down not only at the bottom, but then where the two pieces meet together, I also put a little piece of hot glue there so they didn't flop around. And of course, glue strings everywhere. And this is what it looked like. I had a little piece of glue up there, but I got it scraped off. So I'm going to tuck this into my basket. And this is what it looked like. I thought it turned out pretty sweet for what it was. Again, I did not glue these little pieces of the pinwheel onto the basket just so that I could use the basket for something else if I didn't want those on there. But isn't the bird sweet? And his little hanging swing made out of the glasses. And again, my little sign made with the other part of the pinwheel. Let me know what you think of this one. Do you like little birds as much as I do? I could use them in everything, but it would be overkill. So let's move on to craft number 2. This is the final craft. I'm going to take a balloon because I am actually going to attempt to make a hot air balloon for my next project. So I got this all blown up. I took one of my pretty napkins. This one for some reason was really stuck together on the end and it ripped it, but no big deal. I just had to rip it all to pieces anyway. And I'm actually going to Mod Podge this onto the balloon. But the first thing I'm going to do is take off the blue border because I don't want that anywhere on my project. And then I'm just going to take and rip pieces of the napkin into various different sizes so that I can Mod Podge this on. Now, let me know down in the comments if you can guess what my very first mistake in making this balloon was. Curious if you know. I'm going to share it with you here coming up in a little bit. But I was just getting into the mojo of crafting and putting on my Mod Podge and putting the pieces of napkin on and getting it looking so pretty. And just know my goal was not to have a nice smooth finish on this because there was absolutely no way to accomplish that with layers that I needed to do and the shape of the balloon. It just, it wasn't happening. So I just proceeded to get my pieces on all the way around this whole balloon, let the first layer dry, did the second layer, and this is what it was looking like. It was looking so pretty. Then Easter came and this sat for a couple of days and I came back to a deflated balloon and there was no saving it because it just collapsed on itself because the paper was, or the napkin was so thin. So I realized I needed to put like the old-fashioned paper mache with the flour in the water and some packing paper to give it more strength. Now, I'm going to be honest, I started doing the same thing over again and I had 2 layers of napkin on there and realized I needed to do it this way. So I'm going to get that covered with the napkin. And while that is drying, I just didn't want to bother you with the whole thing. This is where I was taking the pinwheel apart and I realized I was trying to figure out how to get it apart and the little piece on the end just popped off and it comes right off. And the pinwheel itself, I was thinking I could maybe pry that ring out of the center, but after trying a couple of times, it just did not work. So plan B was I took my scissors and I just proceeded to cut all of the pieces as close as I could to the center off of the top of the ring. And then this is what it looked like. I had all of these pieces, but what I needed to use them on, I needed to make first. So we set those aside. I grabbed this piece of cardboard and I'm going to proceed to cut out a basket for the bottom of my hot air balloon. Now, what I have to tell you is I had no plan, no pattern, no nothing I was just winging this, and I was really trying to make sure that the size of the balloon on the top and the basket really made sense together, meaning my balloon wasn't super huge and my basket super tiny, or the other way around. So I was trying to be very methodical about how I was cutting the cardboard into the size that I wanted for the basket. So this is going to be the base piece of my basket, and I'm just trimming off the rough edges because I am going to be hot gluing it together. Now, the side pieces of the basket, I just wanted to measure where the next bend needed to be. And then I took my pencil and I marked it. And the reason why is because if I didn't mark it and then draw a straight line and I tried to freehand it, I know myself, it would have been crooked. So by doing this, I was able to just take the blunt backside of the scissors and score the cardboard, not cutting it, just scoring it. So then it would bend where I needed it to bend. And then I could put my piece of cardboard in there and I could start wrapping it around. It looks like it doesn't fit there in the back, but I just had the bottom piece crooked. And so once I got it all bent the way I needed to bend it, I started putting the hot glue on very carefully at first. I wasn't getting enough on there, so I had to put a little bit more on. And then you can see I'm just turning it, lining it right up with the bottom of that piece of cardboard, and then just holding it there. And it looks like it would be very flimsy, and if I left it just like that, it would be. But I am actually gluing all of the corners all the way around the whole basket so that it forms the shape. And then I went into the garage because I tried yarn at first and it was just too flimsy and wasn't giving me the look I wanted. So I'm going to start with a dab of hot glue and take this string. And as I was putting it on, I realized I think I had used this out in the garden before because there was a little bit of like, I don't know, light brown dirt smudges on some of it. But I'm like, whatever, we're just going to use it because it's the only thing I could find strong enough. And I didn't want to hot glue the whole thing, so I put some tacky glue on there. And then once I came around on the first layer, where I started, I put a little more hot glue just to secure it in place before I wound it up onto the next layer. And I just did one continuous run of string. I didn't want to have to cut perfect pieces for every rung. And the tacky glue allowed me to kind of fiddle with the string and get it down as close to the bottom piece of string as I could all the way up the basket. And that worked out pretty okay. I did have a little few gaps when it was done, which you'll see here, but overall it looked good. And so I am going to move on to the next part of the project, which is using these pieces of the pinwheel. I thought the little triangular designs on here were really cute, and I thought it would make a pretty little border to go around the basket. And at first I was thinking I would cut out like a 2-strip wide piece of these little triangles for the border. And so I was cutting them all that way at first, which really wasn't a big deal. But what I realized is that I kind of wanted to do 2 different colors per side. So once I cut out a few, then you kind of have to line them up together and trim off the end pieces so that when you butt them up next to each other like this, the pattern makes sense and you don't like have a half a triangle where you need to have a full triangle. So I trimmed it down to 1 piece and then tucked 2 pieces together and started with my layers. And I'm going to cut out the rest of these off camera so that I have them all ready to go, and then I'm going to start gluing them onto my basket. And I decided that as I went around the basket, each side was going to have a different color, and I did just use hot glue for this. It worked just fine. And I am just going to put on that piece, and you can see I just need a tiny little piece extra to go on the end there. I had forgotten to cut this end flush before I glued it on. So I'm cutting that straight so that my next piece I can butt up next to it. And I didn't want to use one of my long pieces because those are what you saw in the basket. I didn't want to make those too short, so I found a little short piece, got that cut out and all glued on there. And then I'm just going to work on putting the rest of the colors around the first layer of the basket. And then once I get that done, we will come back to the starting point. And then the starting point, you can see how each side is a different color. I want to alternate colors on the bottom of the first one. And what I'm going to do, as you can see the top layer, the triangles are going in one direction. I'm going to put the triangles in the opposite direction with the second color. And I just think it looks better. I had tried it just to see what it looked like both ways, and this way definitely I thought looked better. So not going to bore you with the whole process of doing that, but I did end up going all the way around the basket with both colors, or all the different colors. And then this piece that you saw me make the flag out of, it was longer than I needed, so I decided I was going to make a ladder, and I was going to cut 2 pieces off of the bottom of this stick. It was very thick, and I really need to get something better to cut stuff like this with, but I just was very patient, and I used some pruners from the yard, and I got the 2 pieces cut off. And then for the side little rungs of the ladder, I decided I would use barbecue skewer because I wanted to save the rest of that for my sign. And at first I was trying to glue the ladder together before I got it onto the basket, but the problem was the little connection points of the glue were so tiny that every time I moved it, it broke apart. So I scrapped that and went to plan B, and that was just gluing it in place onto the basket. So I put one side on, and then I was trying to decide, should I put the other side on first, but I realized that it would be much easier if I just glued the little rungs of the ladder on first before I put the other side on. And I'm going to put 3 little pieces going up the ladder. And then before I put the other side of the ladder on, I actually did tack the little side pieces down with some hot glue as well so that they all stayed on there. And now they're nice and secured, and my little hot air balloon basket has a ladder. So now the eyeliner, you can see I switched to a different type of eyeliner than you saw in the beginning of the video. I didn't know what in the heck I was going to do with that little skinny one, and my daughter had this one that she didn't like, so she brought it up to me, and I decided I was going to wrap it in a piece of just basic white copy paper. I taped it on there, rolled it up, made sure it was nice and even on the other end, and then I taped that in place. And then I found this door hanging. It's like one of those from the 70s. It just reminds me of the 70s anyway, where all these little strands hang down and you walk through them in a doorway. And it was only $2 at the thrift store. And I am telling you, I have a bejeezy load of this trim now that I got for just $2. So I was pretty excited about that. I'm just going to hot glue this on, wind it all the way around. I just glued it periodically here and there. I didn't sit and glue it everywhere. But now that I have that all on there, I decided it needed something very sturdy to stand in, and I put it in this little candle holder that I got at the Dollar Tree. Yeah, mistake number 2 on this hot air balloon. This hot air balloon gave me fits every step of the way. Now, this is a little tea light that I found at the Dollar Tree as well. I didn't realize it had 3 different colors on it, but whatever. It twists on and off, and I thought it was really cute. I'm going to glue this onto the top of the eyeliner stick, and I realized once I got it on there that it just looked kind of plain and not really the look that I was going for. So you can see how it kind of matches the candlestick, but the candlestick didn't fit into my basket. So I'm going to have to take it off of there. So I decided what I'm going to do. These little pieces came in the package as well. Let me show you what the package looks like if you're interested. You can see it has the red, the blue, and the green. Shows you what the light does. I wasn't paying any attention at the store. But these came in the package with it. And I guess it's to where, like, if you have a little votive, you can set those down inside there with the little fake tea light and have it sparkle more. But I wanted to glue these all around the top of the little tea light. And the reason why is because I was kind of going for the look of a, oh, I don't know, like, you know how in hot air balloons they have that flame that goes up into the inside of the basket? And I was kind of trying to recreate something like that, but I couldn't really figure out how to do it. So this is my version. And then I wanted to dress up the base of the tea light more. So I put 2 rows on the bottom and 2 on the top so that it's still twisted, because that's how it turns on. And I'll turn the light off here. You can see it goes from blue, and then it fades into green, and then it fades into red. And I guess it's pretty cool, but I really would have preferred white, but I'm going to have to take it off of there. Now, my balloon dried, and you can see I had 2 in there because the darn first balloon that I had deflated, and my smart husband said, why don't you just put another balloon in there and reinflate it very carefully? So I did, and it worked. But I need to trim the opening of this right now. And I was really kind of, my initial thought was that I was going to have the little like torch flame thing in the bottom of the basket and having it stick up inside of the hot air balloon, and the light would make the balloon glow. But when I sized it up, the balloon would have been way too low and way too close to the basket, and it looked really silly. So I kind of had to go to plan B. So I'm going to set that aside, come back to my basket, and I am going to glue this down inside the basket. And I realized I really needed something to hold that in place and give the bottom of the basket weight. So yep, I went out to my flower bed, grabbed some of the river rocks that were out there and decided to glue those down into the basket. Then I glued down the little torch light here and got that secured into place. And then I just glued the rest of the rocks down into the base so that it held it nice and snug. I put a little piece of napkin in there. I redid it a little bit later because I started gluing these barbecue skewers into each corner because I needed something to hold up my hot air balloon. And as I mentioned, this project, it just gave me fits. I can't even tell you. Do you guys have projects like that sometimes? Oh man, I literally at this point was ready to just go grab the garbage can and throw the whole thing away and just like go, I just can't even do it this month. It's driving me nuts. Now, I apologize for the view. My craft room is not ready downstairs. I'm at the table and I have my stuff everywhere. Let me know if you guys like crafting videos where you like see organization or craft rooms or just what I have in my craft room. I'm going to be cleaning it up pretty soon, and if you'd like to see that, I will gladly do a video and kind of give you a peek into my world down there. But I'm just fiddling with the sticks and trying to get them to sit straight, and every time I moved one, the other one moved, and once I got it put into place where I thought it looked good, one side looked good and the other side, the sticks were like caving the side of the balloon in because it was just so much pressure that was just stiff and had no give. And so I decided, you know what? Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? This is driving me absolutely insane. And I decided I have to take these sticks out of here because there's just no making them work. They're just too stiff. So what I did is I went downstairs into my craft room and I grabbed these little wires. Now this is my floral wire. I put two pieces together and I bent over the ends of two of them, probably about an inch or so. And then I took my needle nose pliers and I twisted them together. This is going to be the base that goes down inside the hot air balloon. And then I twisted the other two pieces together all the way down. And I also did a little bend on the other end, but this end I did very small because this is the end that's going to go up next to the balloon itself. And then I just took my pliers and pinched those together really good, make it as flat as possible. So I'm going to work on getting these glued into the basket. Pardon my hand, I'm putting a new glue stick in. And what I'm going to do is glue these onto the wire. Now, the first thing that I thought I would do was glue it onto the piece of trim first and then set the wire on top of it. That was a fail. It was horrible. So I just am cutting off a piece here and I glued on the wire first and then just pressed the trim on. Now I'm going to put a bunch of hot glue on this and I'm going to put it down in the side of the basket. And this better work, darn it, I'm telling you. Oh, I was questioning my sanity at this point. But you can kind of see how you can still see the wire through there. I did fix that at the end. But by the time I got all these wires on here, I realized this was going to work so much better because there was so much flexibility. It wasn't poking the top of the balloon in any way. And then I discovered that I could actually bend these wires to the shape of the base of the balloon. So it really made it look cohesive, like it was just one piece. And then I just took some hot glue and I glued all four sides on. And I didn't film that because my hand was in the way all the time trying to just get it to sit straight. So what I want to do is take some trim. I'm going to wrap it from one side of one wire all the way around to the other side. I just put a little bit of glue at the top where it started, got that put on there, and I held it in place until it was secure, of course. And then I stretched it up and over because I wanted it to be as straight as possible. And then instead of running a solid like bead of glue up and over, I just put a little dot right in the center and I very carefully eyeballed where I needed it to be. Because if I tried to put more than that on there, I knew that it would be totally crooked and wonky and then I wouldn't be able to fix it. So as I'm wrapping it around, I just did one on the side, one right up at the very tippy top of the balloon. And then once I got that secured in place, I just continued doing the same thing all the way around on the other side. One in the center and then one right on the base. And then I proceeded to do this to the other side, and as well as once I got that done, I decided it needed another one in the middle of those, and these wrapped all the way down to the opening of the hot air balloon. And one last thing that I wanted to do was to just wrap a piece of trim around this way to kind of connect where the wires stopped and where the trim that went up and around started. And so I did that. And now I had been thinking and thinking and thinking what I should use to make the little like weight hangers that you always see on the hot air balloons. And I went down to my stash and found this trim, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. Now, if you've never worked with trim too much before, one little suggestion that's so helpful is you just tape where you're going to cut, and it keeps it from fraying. Now, that's more for the benefit of the piece that I'm not using because I'm going to cut this down further. I was looking at it trying to decide if I just wanted to cut the little danglies off and use those, or if I wanted to leave a little piece at the top trim on it. And I thought it looked better with just a little bit of that top piece on there. And that is what I'm going to secure to the top corner. And I'm just going to put a little blob of hot glue on there and secure it on there. And oh my goodness, I was so pleased. You know how sometimes you just have no idea what you're doing and you just start staring at your craft supply and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off. Well, that was that with this one. Don't they look so cute? I just love them. So here is the final reveal of this one. Now, like I say, for as much fits and as much as I just wanted to quit on this project, I'm happy I finished it. It's not perfect, but you know what? It just is what it is. And it does look like a hot air balloon, and that little light with the eyeliner. Now, I did contemplate putting another layer of trim around the top of the hot air balloon, but when I kind of sized it up, it started to look like a checkerboard pattern, and I didn't like that. So here it is with the light on, alternating its colors. I'm sure my granddaughter will think this is wonderful. I put it on the Lazy Susan for you so I could just kind of spin it around and you could see what it looked like from all angles. But let me know what you think of this one and what you think of the cute little weights hanging off the side. Oops, that one's crooked. We better fix that. But yeah, overall, pretty pleased with how it turned out. I really love the balloon in the napkin and the fabric that was. So now we are just going to move into our final reveal of all the projects that we did today. And first we'll start off with the basket, which we incorporated the pinwheel, not only with the little pieces woven onto the basket, which again were not glued down, they were just stuck in there. The sign we made out of the pinwheel frame saying spring, and our little bird hanging there so sweetly in its little nest made from the eyeglass pieces. And wrapping the handle of the basket. I just love the colors of this. I love deep purples and blues. And I know I've told y'all before, but purple's my favorite color. So, and then here is the hot air balloon. Again, in all its glory. Let me know, did you have a favorite between the two? Or I'm not offended either way. It's just this hot air balloon was such a challenge for me, but we got through it. Don't forget to check the description box below for the host channels and the playlist so you can watch what everyone else has made. Don't forget to, I do gardening, cooking, canning, so you may see videos on that. And otherwise, I just want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. It means the world to me, and I will see you next time.